everybody, I've got a chunky monkey today, and it measures 7, not counting the lace, by 5, and the spine is 2 inches. And on the front cover, I used some really pretty ladies on a staircase. It's got a postcard in the background, and I put some sari silk with a little bit of gold for some brightness, and then a seam binding bow. And it's got lace all around the outside of the edge. And I used a muslin strip for the tie. There's the back. It's been inked and coffee stained and aged. So let's go inside, see what we got. Over here, I've got a big piece of ephemera and that lovely Tiffany & Company stamp that I made a patch with. And we have a stitched card, coffee stained card. It's got some lines on it. And one of these letters. I love journaling on these things. They're just so cool. And over here is a ruffle in gold thread with a nice image. I did a lot of stitching in this book, a lot of stitching. There's a little mini collage with some pretty birdies. You can put an image here or just journal right over that if you wanted to. And I just let the stitching come over from the other side. This is our little book that's been attached to the page. It unties. Little tag booklet with a little hummingbird and a piece of lace and some ephemera with a ruffle here and a piece of muslin there on a floral background. This is one of my graphics that I made. Some uneven pages in here with I extended images over the page itself and stitched it on. Same over here. It comes over the edge. And then I let the stitching show through. Some more ephemera. And this, I took the lace and I put it behind this page here, so it's sandwiched in between. A little pretty image, a postcard, and I stitched around the postcard. I just like the way that looks. I got a kick out of this. It's one of the graphics that I had, and I made it on a journaling card. Perry Mason & Company. Who remembers that? I had no idea that it was on ink pen. I wonder if that's where they got his name for the show. But anyway, I thought that was cute. Who watched Perry Mason? Stitch this on here. And just let it come on through. I love that look. More ephemera. Over here is a big piece of ephemera here with a piece of white fabric and a vintage looking lady with some coffee dyed papers that have really pretty laces on them. And it's a file folder pocket. Got the little tab up here. Another little sewn on image with a place to journal. I like you having a place that, you know, making these usable. I like them in the book pages, but when they're usable or pretty, to me they're even better. So I just stitched around it. I stitched around him and then put him in the middle. And that's just for pretty, or you could put something there. You could even write something. Over here is an envelope with a coffee stained card with some fabrics. It's got some pearls and a bow and lots of stamping. I folded down the edges of it. Get in there, little dude. Well, you know, if I was a little closer, this wouldn't be so difficult. But I have to stretch. Over here is a tuck spot, and it's got some fabrics here. Big piece of ephemera. I sewed on a patch. Over here is some really pretty florals that's been stitched around in the brown, and I put a booklet in this. It's got a little tab there and some fabrics. Love that sound. And a nice image there with some more part of this doily. And then I put in a little note card. There's a bunch of different things in it. These things are so handy. Over here is a little mini collage. Now this is just here to look pretty. It's very difficult to get in and out. I didn't kind of like plan that. So, because I wanted to use the other part of it for a pocket, and you'll see that later. But anyway, that's just for a pretty, but then you have this whole backside that you can journal on. More poetry here. These are some of my new graphics I've made, and I let the other side just come on over. It's a little mini collage with a pretty lady and a rose and some stamping and some seam binding. More ephemera. All different shapes and sizes in this book. Here's a collage pocket with some fabrics and an image. You could put a little something there if you wanted, the roses. And it's got that gauze that I like using with a book page up underneath. And then I used a floral image and the postcard image that I sewed around. And I just put a little postcard that's on a book page. It too has the sewing. Nice and thick. Another pretty image with the sewing around it. This, I believe this is in my Etsy shop. I have 4 of this style in my Etsy shop for digital download. Pretty image there. Little fabric, a little gauze. Carpe diem. Seize the day. Little image there. Lots of seam binding. Over here, I sewed on a piece of gold. It's not thread. It's kind of like a cording. And I missed this edge, so I just made a little stitch going down there. It's got some music paper. And here it is on the other side with a little mini collage. Vintage lady. Up here is a piece of the cream colored burlap and part of a doily. A little mini envelope that I think is so cute. A little stamping back there, and I just put some little cards, little things. I love journaling on little things. That's one of my favorite things to do. But anyway, I thought that looked really cute. And here we've got the gauze peeping over from the other side. Little vintage hair comb with a little place to make a note or two. Little birdie. But the unevenness of these pages is just so neat. I really, really love making this style. More stitching on the poetry page, and then here's what I was telling you about. That's the other part of that envelope. And I stitched around it, made a pocket with it, and then you have a big space back here for journaling and a journaling card. It's inked and stamped and all kinds of goodies. And here's some more of that burlap coming over from the other side. You know, burlap is really thready. It will pull apart, but I think I sewed that. I sewed that on. And here it is from the other side with a stamping, some seam binding. And over here is a little button. Come here, little guy. And I embossed the pocket and put some fabric on it and put an image. And inside, and here's a big piece of ephemera in the background. And I put just a card to journal on. Over here, this is one of my favorite pages. I really like how this one came out. It's got some of that real pretty font from that book I got at that estate sale, and then I put some fabric behind it, and then used 3 little mini images with a parasol, And then in here, you've got 2 cards to journal on in this pocket. And I love this pocket, and it's got the gauze that I inked up really heavy on the edges and some seam binding on a safety pin, part of a curtain. It's just, I just really like how that page came out. Over here is a piece of fabric that's been stamped and sewn, and a ticket, part of a ticket. And again, this one has been embossed, and I sewed around the heart and sewed around the pocket itself. And it's got a photo mat and a coffee dyed paper. You could put like your photo here and write about it on the back there. Some more of these uneven pages with some images, piece of newspaper. I thought maybe you might want to put something here. It's hard. It is very hard to leave a blank page when you're making journals. And I know people like to do their own thing or add their own things. And I have decided I'm going to try and leave 1 or 2, as tough as it is. A little stitching there. Vintage looking laces with some embroidery up under it. Nice little lady with a teacup. A little tuck spot. Over here, this is a neat page. I've got a piece of gauze up here and a little place to write. And this is just for a pretty. You could tuck something back here if you wanted to. It will hold it. But this is neat. I've seen some people from Junk Journal Junkies do this, and I've always wanted to put one in a book. So I put one of my favorite letter cards, letter thingies. Thingies, we're back to thingies. On the page. And there's some more stitching. Sammy Jo says hello. She says hello again. More stitching that came from the other side. Over here is 3 little places to journal with a little bit of a coffee stained, looks kind of damask-y, flowery background paper. And the pocket has been embossed, and it's got fabric over it, and part of a doily, little key, a vintage lady reading a book. And inside I put another one of these cards. They're just my favorite. They are just great. Great to use. Need to write a note to somebody, to put in a gift, it's perfect. Over here is a little card and a vintage lady with some of the gauze again. And I used an antique safety pin with a button. This is another image in my Etsy shop, and I just sewed around the postcard. Another pretty page. More of that poetry page. I have not read it. I have no idea what it says, but it's a pretty cool poetry book. So, and over here is a postcard that's been sewn on. Isn't she cute? She's so cute. A piece of ephemera. Here's 2 postcards to journal on with some ephemera in the background. And this is coming over from the other page with some seam binding and another little image. Birdies. And again, I did the lace in between the pages here. And so stitched around it. Another part of that newspaper. A dapper gentleman. Little place to journal here with a vintage image behind it. Piece of ephemera. And over here I used a safety pin and some seam binding and some of that cream colored burlap with a stamped image on a music tag. And I put in another tag there that's heavily inked and stitched. And a little envelope that you can use to put stash of stuff in there. It's perfect for dollar bills. And up here, up here it says thankful. And there's that stitching. Isn't that just neat? It just adds so much, I think, to the page, the stitching. Over here is one of the patches I like to make, and I put in a lined piece of paper for journaling. Been coffee stained with a piece of ephemera behind it. Pretty gazebo. There's the back with the muslin stitching on, stitch the edges on the muslin for the tie. And this, look at this. This is one chunky monkey. And a little pretty image on the front with the seam, coffee dyed seam binding. I want to thank y'all for being here with me this Friday, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye, y'all.